Coming up today on Speedway Line Report Radio, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut. My co-host Ricky Rotundo and myself, we're going to talk to a gentleman that's been around for a long time. He's getting back into the sport of auto racing, Dick Williams. He's going to talk about the Tri-Track Series. And later on in the show, we're going to talk to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series driver Parker Kligerman. And the winner of yesterday's Spring Sizzler at Stafford Motor Speedway in the running of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, Bobby Santos III. And we'll take your phone calls at 203-757-1320. Today is Monday, April 28th, 2014, and Speedway Line Report Radio is coming your way right now.
Presented by Shaler Acura of Manchester. Broadcasting from our WATR studios in Waterbury, Connecticut. And streaming live around the world, it's 90 minutes of auto racing news. Now, here's your...
Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. I am Gary Danko, right alongside my co-host Rocket Rick Rotundo, the crew chief on Eric Burns, SK Modified. Ricky also has a business of his own called R&R Fabrication, and we're here to talk auto racing today on Speedway Line Report Radio. It was a busy weekend, Rick, over at Stafford Motor Speedway. Of course, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on when we bring Bobby Santos into the show to talk about his victory, but the SK Modifieds were on hand. Of course, you had late models, you had mini stocks, you had dare stocks, you had a lot of racing over at Stafford Motor Speedway, and we're going to talk a lot about that tonight.
Yeah, there was a lot of things going on, and unfortunately there was a lot of rain, making it even a little bit more packed when they had to run it, and hurry up and get stuff done. A lot of the qualifying was cut out of it and things like that, but they made it work. Everything worked out fine, and they got all the racing in over the weekend.
Yeah, yes they did, and of course Stafford, they run a good show over there. I mean, from the officiating, from everybody involved with Team Stafford, they do a good job. The show moved right along. The rain, of course, on Saturday. I wasn't there on Saturday, but of course, heavy rains, and they had to try to get some stuff in when they could. And then, of course, on Sunday, right after the pit party, which was held out on the racetrack, all the crew members got their cars back into the pit area, and right during the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour drivers meeting is when it started out as light rain, and then it got pretty heavy. But Team Stafford, they did what they needed to do. They got out there, they dried the track, and I believe they were only about a half hour off the pace of when they were supposed to start.
Yeah, it was only about a half hour. So we'll start at 1. I think it was just about 1:30 by the time they kicked it off. So it was right there on what they had to do. And then that's like on Saturday, they were trying to keep us there because they were trying to get our qualifying in. Then later on, around 4 or 5 o'clock or so, they realized that they were going to be lucky to get the races in because the rain was definitely coming on. And so what they did is they just announced over to PA late models, SKs, just pack up your stuff and go home and see you tomorrow. You're all qualified already, and we'll post lineups later. And so it was a really short day for SK guys and late models and stuff.
We're also streaming online at WATR.com. You can also go to SpeedwayLineReport.com. Former modified driver Tom Ormsby, the webmaster of SpeedwayLineReport.com, gets my show up onto his website. You can go back, once again, you can listen to us live there at SpeedwayLineReport.com, or you can go back and listen to this show in a rebroadcast. This show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, J.M. Montesano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant,
and Your Car, Your Choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
When we come back, we'll talk to a gentleman that's involved with many with the Tri-Track Series, Dick Williams. He'll join us next.
Market for a new Acura? There's only one place to go. Shaler Acura in Manchester. Shaler is Connecticut's first Acura dealer. Shaler offers the area's best selection selection of new and pre-owned Acuras. Shaler Acura also offers extended hours for parts and service, open until 8 o'clock Monday through Thursday, and till 4 o'clock on Saturday. Come to Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester, or visit them on the web at shaleracura.com. Nowhere else but Shaler
And the
Acura.
YouTube guy's in the house, gotta make mention of the YouTube guy.
And he may do the Tri-Track series.
Huh?
And I'm going to try to do the Tri-Track series.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to try to. Seekonk anyways.
Goes through a 150-point inspection and comes with a 7-year or 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Plus, save on your monthly payments with low finance rates. Nowhere else but Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester. Call 867
And Riverhead.
7077 or visit them on the web at shaleracura.com. Shaler Acura, Manchester.
Opinions expressed on the Speedway Line Report do not necessarily reflect those of WATR management and staff, or the management and staff of the SpeedwayLineReport.com or VintageModifieds.com.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo, and of course also in the house is fourth week in the WATR studio. He is known as the YouTube guy, Robert Baggett, former driver himself. We appreciate everything that he does, getting our show, which you can actually see us doing this show. You know, we're trying some new things here, Ricky. It's like a race team. You're always trying new things. Some things work and some things don't. A little bit later on, we're going to try something, but we won't let the cat out of the bag. We're going to try that a little bit later on.
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to do something, and our crew chief is normally okay.
Mr. Graves.
Yeah, he's growing his hair long over there, but he's going to be on the ball today. We'll see how he does here.
Absolutely. The phone number that you need tonight, 203-757-1320. Congratulations going out to all the drivers that got the victory lane, whether on Saturday over at Stafford Motor Speedway and, of course, on Sunday. Waterford Speed Bowl, they pulled the plug pretty early because there was a lot of rain in the area, so tip of the cap to Waterford for canceling their racing program on Saturday night.
Yeah, with the amount of rain that they got and everything else, there was just no way they were going to drive the track because it comes out of the track and everything else because of the way that, it's situated there next to the little river and stuff. There was just no way they were going to be able to drive that track.
Okay, our first guest, he is all set and ready to go. He has been around for many, many years. He now joins us, Dick Williams. Dick, how are you tonight? First of all, before, as I mentioned, you've been around for a long, long time, but you stepped away from the sport for how many years? And what made you get back in this great sport of auto racing?
Some of the big races at Seacock, 1 or 2 a year for a few years there, and that's what got me back in it.
Okay, and just give us a brief snapshot for some of my listeners that may not be familiar with Dick Williams. Take us through a little bit of your racing career.
Okay, I'll do that, but as soon as I do that, it's not Dick Williams anymore. It's the racing guys and the Long Island Mod Maniac, because it's not about me, this.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Out of that Waterford driving, I wasn't very good. I bought one of the old V8s and went to Norwood Arena, and Bill Slater drove my car to a track championship in 1964. He beat Leo, the great Leo Cleary, by 4 points. The next year I had a dirt car at Stafford for Bill. And from there, in 1966, I went to work at Stafford as an official. Until 1979, I worked at Stafford, Thompson, Seacock, anywhere from a gopher to a tech man, a handicap, a flagger, chief steward, whatever it was. And in 78, I leased a speedboat, me and a partner, and we ran Waterford, Westbound, Monadnock, and Thompson, 4 different racetracks during the next 8 years. So that's about the history of it.
Now let me ask you, looking at short track racing today versus when you were involved, running racetracks, how is it different?
As far as the costs of everybody have gone up, and it always gets thrown on the promoter, paying more money, but his costs have gone up the same as everybody else is. I think the big thing I saw when I came back was the lack of respect from the younger guys towards the older guys, and it's not because they're disrespectful, but there's so much pressure now for these young gentlemen to win that they sometimes they get overdrive, get into trouble or something. But when I was around, when I started, the old guys would take you aside and talk to you, and you were in the way. They moved you. They didn't wreck you, but they had ways. It took care of itself, really, and there wasn't as many cameras and all this, but they were mostly gentlemen about it, and they'd let you know. So I think money is the big thing too. I mean, I don't know how these guys do it. I really don't. The price of tires, gas, it's unbelievable. Well, see if we could help.
We're talking with one of the racing guys. He's involved with many in the Tri-Track Series, and right alongside is my co-host Rocky Rick Rotundo. He's a crew chief on Eric Burns' North End Auto Parts number 54 car. And Ricky, I think you guys put a lot of time at the race shop, and it is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It's definitely a lot of time. Most of the people that do it have businesses of their own, or they have friends that have businesses. That's where they get their sponsorship from. So it's all mainly family to friends, and that's how it keeps going. And I understand what he's saying about, the younger guys with the lack of respect. It's what happens a lot is, like, the younger guys will be sitting in the stands and they'll be watching. Back in the 80s, you see Teddy Christopher and, banging up with somebody else, or Jimmy Spencer, and, I'll even say like John Anderson or whatever. Bo Gunning, Bo Gunning and stuff. Bo and Johnny used to go at it all the time. But as you're in the lower divisions and you see this happening, you're saying, well, that's what it must be like when I get there. And it's one of them things, just like, if you have three brothers and they're all younger than you, the youngest one is the wittiest because he gets it from the other three brothers. And that's what's happening with the generations of racing, where there's just more brass as you go along, I think.
All right, Dick, let's dive into the Tri.
He's a racer because he hit it right on the nose.
He certainly did, and right, Ricky has been around a long time. Of course, as he mentioned, his uncle was J.A. John Anderson, who used to run over at Plainville, Riverside, Stafford, Thompson, and other places as well. So Ricky and his family certainly been around racing for a long time. But I want to concentrate now, Dick, with you. As you mentioned, you're one of the racing guys. There's a bunch of yous that are in this together. Name some of those other guys, and then let's talk about the Tri-Track Series. For people that don't know what it's all about, I want you to explain that and explain the racetracks that they're going to. First of all, who are the other gentlemen involved with you?
Wayne Coates, Charlie McGowan, Fred Perry, Butch Perry, Steve Main, and my two cousins, when we support some of the super races, they jump in too. So we kind of spread it around to not just the modified, but that's our love, and that's what we're trying to do. But this all started at Seacock one day. My good friend Bob Watson from Lee invited us up to the Oktoberfest. Well, the first year we didn't go. The second year we went. We saw what a great show, and he was telling us about some of the divisions that were running for nothing. And that didn't sit too well with us because we wanted to help. It wasn't that the tracks, the tracks just couldn't afford to do it. There was smaller divisions and couldn't afford to put the money out. So that's basically how we got started. And how we did it, a lot of these tracks knew me from way back, and they used to ask me to come and be their guest, and I never did that because I didn't feel that I should do it. I should pay to get in like anyone else. But when they did that, what we would do, we would take the money and put it in the kitty, and we started doing side jobs, and we matched some of the money, so we accumulated money to go to the tracks. And what we did, we loved to modify, so we started helping the Valenti series. And how we did that, we didn't put it in the purse, but we always had 4 or 5 envelopes, and we go through the pits. If guys had trouble, and we started doing that, and we've done it for a couple of years. So that's how it got started.
We're talking to one of the racing guys, Dick Williams. You heard him mention some of the other gentlemen that are involved, and talk about the racetracks where the Tri-Track Series can be seen.
First of all, I told you about the racing guys, but the guy that really put the most time is the one Mod Maniac, Jim Schaefer. I actually caught him not working today when I called him, but usually if you call him day or night, he's working on all this, and he puts in a ton of time. So it's not about the racing guys. It's not about Jim Schaefer. There's at St. Germain, at Seekonk, Kevin Rice. I mean, there's so many people that have helped, including drivers, owners, you know, but I just wanted to mention that to make sure that everybody knows that this is not about the racing guys or Jim, or it's about everybody together.
Sure.
How it was last summer, a number of the older races approached the racing guys, and they wanted to run some extra races like the old All-Star League. And we talked, and the concerns were dates, so we didn't interfere with other tracks. The rules, there's so many different rules for the modified. Not like when we ran back years ago where you had one or two sets and they were pretty much close together. But now every series is different. You got the SK lights, and basically a modified car with a smaller motor. So we were trying to figure out how we could get all these guys together and do this. We sat down with engine builders and racers, and I've been down on how many shops and probably been thrown out of enough of them because I bothered them so much. But trying to make this as fair as we could for everyone, and just show them that this could happen, because what really took this off was we go to a lot of the racetracks and they would tell us the modifieds are dead, they're not going to do it, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, I looked at them, I said, has anybody really promoted them? You can't sit here and promote it all by the media. You got to get out and work, go to the garages, go to the racetracks, go to the auto shows. It requires so much work that you can't believe. So that's basically what it was about, how it started. And the tracks were initially with Seekonk and Star, which we were told, and right to our face, that neither one of them, well, one of them was definitely not going to run, the other one was almost sure they weren't. So we didn't want to lose the 2 dates. So I agreed with Jim, with the tracks, that we would jump in and we'd make it we'd raise the money or give them the money to make it $1,000 to start the race. But as I thought about it and talked to the guys, that wasn't the answer. I said, that helps. But you get these small budget guys that buy their tires, spend the money to get there. They want to come and race. They don't want to go home with no money, a set of tires they can't use anywhere else. So we came up with the idea of a B feature. And so far at Seekonk and Lee, we've raised $12,000, $13,000 for them races. Plus we're going to put in some. So they got a race where it's $1,000 to win for a 30 lapper, and right now it's like $350, depending on the number of cars. It's $375 to start the race. Once we get to the track, we're going to do a raffle, and we're going to take that money and put it into the back of the B feature, so they go home with more than $400. And that doesn't pay their way, but it sure does help. So what happened with Star and Seekonk, we were under the third track, so we could call it a series. Well, we approached a lot of tracks, but our good friends of the league, Red and Judy and Bill Cowan and Joe Bassett, they all jumped right in, and boy, it has been the most satisfying thing that I think I've ever done because of the help. Everybody has worked so hard at this because this is our race, the first one. And we want to show everyone that's looking and saying we can't do this, we want to show them what we could do. As of right now, I've had 6 calls from 6 different racetracks to run a show like this. And our answer is, my guys are always saying, not me, let's get the first one in, and see how it goes, and then we'll go from there. And that's where we stand right now.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that you're doing. I'm a modified guy. I've always been a modified guy, and it's difficult sometimes for me to just sit and watch races now because I'm so used to working on the cars and everything else. And you know, hearing what you're saying there and everything else, trying to get the guys money and everything, that is a huge help to all these guys. And I just want to say thanks because everybody's saying, oh, it's only a few $100s, but to some of these guys, you don't know what it's like to be at the racetrack. I mean, if you want to see, what anybody's talking about when they're talking about the modifieds and all the other divisions and stuff, just go to the racetrack, go in the pits, see how these guys work and, what they got for tools and everything else, what they do just to get to the racetrack. I mean, they'll have their Craftsman box, some of these guys with barely any tools, but I've said this countless of times on the radio station, racing is different from every other sport. Because you got the guy next to you trying to help you with your car. And that's one of the things.
When I ran the speedboat, I had a gentleman in there at night, and he thought he'd been wrong, and I'd made a decision, and I thought I was right, and he thought he was, but I was there till 5 o'clock in the morning. My son come in and wasn't being rude, but he said, Dad, it's 5 o'clock. So when we walked out, he said, Dad, why did you do that? You weren't going to change your mind. And I said, let me tell you something. That guy worked all week long till midnight every night. I owed that to him if I had to stay there the whole day. Just to hear him and try to make him understand where I was coming from. And that's the way it had to be. So, I mean, I was one of them. I know what they put into it. And I couldn't come back and do this unless I could put 110% in. And I couldn't up to a few years ago because that's the way I am. And I'm only here to help. None of us have taken a cent out of this so far, but it's getting to be so, the costs are so staggering now that when we get done and sit down, if we take a few expenses out, the guy's got to forgive us for that.
Well, it's only understandable at some point because, at some point your free time becomes all of your time.
Right.
And
but
that...
We're all in it. We're all racers, and we love the sport. And none of us do this for money. And when they race, money isn't the big thing. I was telling my guys when we started this, you can give them all the money in the world, but if we do this, and when we go to the racetrack, if we give nice trophies, or we have a hat we give out, and the only way you can get that hat, I've had guys try to get them from me. They don't get it unless they win the race, and that's a racing guy's hat. And we give out hot charger awards from different guys from different tracks. And we've had more guys come back and say that was the nicest thing that they've ever gotten in racing. So the little things, the things that you have for memories, they're the things that mean something in racing. And a lot of the people don't get it. They don't get it. And as far as going for sponsors, our theory was, we go for a little bit of money, not trying to hurt anybody. If you go in and ask somebody for $1,000, $2,000 for a race or something, they'll throw you out. But if you go in and ask them for a lap or $100, $150, it's kind of hard to turn you away. And we've raised about 40 grand, but just for the point funds. And I mean, it's just amazing. And it's not because of us, because of the races and the whole deal.
Well, it kind of is really you because you're the one that's going out there. You're hitting the beat, hitting up all these guys for $100. A lot of people doesn't know what that's like, and I've been on that end before, trying to get sponsors, trying to go here. You're talking to people you don't know. You're selling them. You're selling them on something that they don't even know sometimes, and it's a difficult thing to do. But it's one of them things. If you ever go to the racetrack, it's a different world.
A lot of them haven't, and that's what we're trying to do too. When we started this series, it wasn't to hurt, it was trying to help. Because as a racer, you want to race against the best guys. They couldn't do it because of the rules. Now if we find the right dates and even the cars up, the guys want to see how they match up against them. Boy, you got some great divisions, the ROC, the Valenti, the Whalen. There's great races in all three divisions and in the independent tracks.
Sure is.
We can do that. You know darn well they're gonna go out there talking, and that's what we want. The one thing I don't get, though, by talking with some of these guys, and it's always been that way, and I think it's just because they don't want to commit and say that they're coming in case something happens, but they wait right to the last minute. When you're trying to raise money from them, they got to learn to, kind of help a little more. Not all of them, I'm just saying, but the thing is, the names bring in the people, the little guys make the race, because you don't race without them, and every once in a while when you get these small tracks, the little hero, he scores an upset, and that's what it's about,
And Dick, the first race is going to come up, May 11th, the Bull Ring Bash powered by Sunoco at Lee USA Speedway. Tell us about some of the other races.
Second one will be June 14th at Star. That's a Saturday night, and none of the other series are running. I kind of was against this, but we wanted to have two races that were established, because I don't want to race against 90% of the tracks that are running on a Saturday night. And I've tried to talk to them, and if they come around, that's great. And Kevin Rice has put a whole lot of time in it, but they got to realize that they might have to change the date. We draw a lot more fans, and we'll get a lot more help from the other tracks. If I'm running on Saturday night, you're running against me, I'm not going to promote this. And I don't blame them. But this is what we got this year. And if we do this and do it right and make it grow, we can solve these problems. Either they get on a board or we move to one of the other 6 tracks that are looking for a race. And I'm not putting anybody down. These are the problems you have trying to get all the tracks together and do that. It's been a lot of work, I'll tell you that. It's been an awful lot of work.
And of course, if you got a Connecticut-based company, Dunleavy's Truck and Trailer and Repair, of course, they sponsor a couple of race cars, and they're involved as well now.
There's some good, there's other Connecticut things, without communications, Leffingwell Pools in Montville, Connecticut, Cliff Nelson Racing, who sponsors cars, they chip, and a lot of the teams that bought a lap or two, but you can't say enough for them. A lot of my friends in the Westerly area, Pat's Auto Center, at French Paving, Bradford Motors, Valenti's, all these chipped in. And none of them have been for a lot of money. We started to have some major sponsors like Alloy Wheel Specialists out of Quincy, Mass. They gave us a lot of money for the point fund. Sunoco Racing Fuel, Rouge Tires, Seacon Grand Prix, Wayne Darling, he stepped up really big time. Then you got Dunleavy, and the Long Island Maniac and the racing guys. After this race at Lee, we'll have raised purse money and other money between $80,000 and $90,000 for this series, and I think that's great.
Dick, a couple more minutes with you talking about the Tri-Track Series. Is there a website where people can go to find out more information about where the races are going to be and more details?
Yes, sir. It's Tri-Track Open Modified Series. They have a beautiful website, and it's updated. And Ed St. Germain from Seacon is taking care of that, and boy, he's done a great job.
Are you glad you're back involved in short track racing?
I missed it all the whole time I was out. It just went right for me, and yeah, I missed it. But I've also had offers to run racetracks, run series, do all this. I'm not into it. I just want to help the races, and especially the series now. We don't want to. And I talked to Jack and some of the other guys. We're there to help. This is the way we're helping by doing our own thing. But the guys asked for this, and we'll do whatever they ask, as long as they support it. And that first race, like I said, we have our next allocator just to prove it. So that's why we're really putting effort in, and hope people will come and see it, because we're going to put a race on for you.
Okay, one last question for you, Dick, because you've been around auto racing now for many years. As you mentioned, you stepped away for a while. But where do you see short track racing going? 5 years, where do you see short track racing?
I don't know, because what's sad about it is I've watched the last 2 years I've been back, all these tracks closing. And you got two right now that are very well closed this year, at the end of the year. And when we lose them, we're not going to get them back. So
Correct.
of us doing this is not just for the races. There's three entities in this: the races, the racetracks, and the fans. And if one gets the better part of it, the other two, it doesn't work. They all have to benefit. So by helping and doing this, putting money in, we're putting fans in the seat where the racetracks are benefiting, the drivers, owners are benefiting, and the racetrack, and the race fans. If we put a good product on for them, everybody has come out of it really great. The other thing is, we didn't want to charge a lot of money. With just $25 to see this show, and $20 for women and seniors. So we're trying to keep the cost down and then raise money. And we say we're not in it to make money, but we're in it to make money so we can put it back into races, because we've got a lot of races coming up. Jim helps a lot of the whaling races, and we've got 3 races we're committed to with the Valenti Tour, the Race Guy Nights this year, that we've got to come up with money. So the more money we can raise, the more we can put back in. That's the way it's going to be.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for spending some time with us on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio, talking about the Tri-Track Series. One more time, the website?
It's Tri-Track Open Modified Series.
Okay. Dick, thank you for...
And well, I want to thank you and your guest there, too, because I know he was racing just talking to him. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to plead our case.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Anytime. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. One of the racing guys, that's Dick Williams, joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio, talking about the Tri-Track Series. We'll take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series driver Parker Kligerman. He's up next.
To Shaler Acura and test drive the all-new redesigned RDX Sport Utility, built for the size of your life. The all-new RDX reflects a new kind of luxury that values the resourceful, an engine that's powerful yet efficient, technology that optimizes your time, a design that puts excellence ahead of excess. Come to Shaler Acura today and test drive this exciting all-new SUV, or see it on the web at ShalerAcura.com. Shaler Acura.
You're right.
Center Street, Manchester. Exit 60 on I-84.
SBC Global or
The Embroidery Works is a full-service embroidery company supplying Central Connecticut with custom corporate apparel and imprinted items since 1998. Whether it's embroidery, screen printing, EMS workwear, team spirit, or team clothing, or promotional products, the Embroidery Works has what you're looking for. They offer a wide selection of brand name
If that works tonight, I'll be very happy.
Harvard Square.
We got it.
It's all up to Graves. Delta.
Graves is a big player here. You're a big player, Tom. Is that tape rolling?
Yeah, it is, yep.
Pressure is on now.
Pressure's on you now. I know. It always has been. It is every week.
You gotta
get that haircut.
Yeah,
I know. You know what? When I came back in, I was gonna go.
Your team or club to instill a sense of pride.
Streamline over there.
Family reunion.
I gotta get a cut. I gotta
Works
get
at
a cut, but it's gonna get
860-747-9802. That's 860-747-9802. Now at 333 East Street in Plainville. That's 333 East Street, Plainville for Embroidery Works. Visit them online at embroideryworksct.com. Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut.
Your car, your choice. The Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko strapped in our Waterbury studio at WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com. You can also catch us at SpeedwayLineReport.com, where we do archive all of the shows. My co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo. Our next guest, we'll be getting him on the line, will be Parker Kligerman, who runs in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And Ricky, just a little brief note on the history of the team that Parker was driving for. On December 3rd, 2013, the team announced that Cole Witt and Parker Kligerman would drive for them in 2014 as the team expanded to 2 full-time cars with the number 26 and the number 30 with Swan Racing. that they would field both entries full-time and have both drivers compete for Rookie of the Year. On January 13th, 2014, Anthony Marlowe from Iowa City Capital Partners was announced as the minority owner, and on February 4th of 2014, it was announced that rapper 50 Cent headset company SMS Audio would serve as Swan Racing Associates sponsor. And then on April the 17th, which was last week, team officials announced that they would be reviewing the team's financial trouble due to lack of sponsorship. As a result, prospects of the team competing the following race at Richmond was in doubt. However, co-owner Anthony Marlowe stated he intends to run WIT for the rest of the season. On April 23rd, the team announced that it had sold off both entries, with WIT and the 26 both moving under the BK Racing banner, while the number 30 moves to Extreme Motorsports with J.J. Yaley replacing Kligerman. With that said, our next guest of the evening, he is from Connecticut. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series driver Parker Kligerman now joins us. Parker, how are you tonight?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I appreciate your time and joining us. Tell us, first of all, what is next for Parker Kligerman? You're still under contract with the team that you were driving for. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, you know, as you, I listened to a little bit of your intro there. Obviously, we sold the 30 number to the Extreme Motorsports team, which had, you know, J.G. Alley and his sponsors and all that sort of thing there. So currently at Swan Racing, we don't have a number. You know, we kind of, as you saw, we took a step back. Brandon Davis and Swan Racing has kept me under contract, and the intention of hopefully being able to do, I think, you know, a partial season for the rest of the year at some point. I can't exactly say when. And then also for myself, you know, there's been some opportunities that have come to me that I'm evaluating, as well as outside of NASCAR, I'm evaluating some opportunities that have come to me. So there's a lot going on. It's an exciting time. I know it sounds crazy to, you know, to kind of take away a full ride and say it's an exciting time, but it really is a time at which, you know, there's a lot of options that have come to me, and so we're just kind of evaluating all those and hopefully making the right decision. And then, you know, as I've said before, the intention is hopefully to one day be back at the full-time Cup level.
Parker, could you see this coming, what took place last week? Did you see this rolling as the season was going along?
Yeah, you know, we knew there was issues probably from about Daytona onward. And, you know, in a lot of ways, what we were able to accomplish at Swan Racing last year with a single car, and when I did my 2 races, we had some really great results and really great runs. And then expanding to 2 cars obviously put a lot of our resources very thin. There were some things that sponsorship-wise did not materialize and did not come together that was kind of attached to that second car. And all those things adding up put obviously my owner, Brandon Davis, and everyone at Swan Racing in a tricky position to continue for the rest of the season. So in an effort to hopefully, you know, save people's jobs and obviously, you know, find the best solution for everyone involved, we went the route we did. I guess, you know, I think there's, as I said before, there's a lot of things still going on and still in the works, and so we just got to see how it all plays out.
What's the relationship with you and Brandon Davis?
Good friends. We talk basically every other day or so. We're still, you know, Brandon and I are trying to figure out what's the next step. You know, obviously I stayed with Swan Racing and with Brandon, and I appreciate his belief in me and the opportunity that he was giving me. You know, I think for himself and myself, it's figuring out what's the best for Swan Racing, what's the best for Parker Kligerman, and the best for Brandon Davis, to have the best shot to go out there and put our best foot forward and have an enjoyable racing time, but also a racing, a form of racing or whatever we do that we can actually build on and build partners with to hopefully go back full-time in 2015.
Yeah, we've been watching you since the beginning of the year, and you know, personally, I just think it's tough for a small team to have bad luck like you did right at the beginning of the year, and you know, it's tough to overcome when you're a small team like you are, and then splitting into 2. So it was kind of a rough road you had there, with just because of some bad luck, I thought.
Well, yeah, there was absolutely, you know, a lot of things results-wise that were not great, but in so many ways, that wasn't really any sort of a factor in what happened here and in the way the team went. You know, if we were winning races, I don't think it would have changed much. You know, there were situations that were put in place that we couldn't alleviate, and that it had to go the route it did. With that said, the bad luck and those sorts of things, it was unfortunate, but you got to look at the fact that, as I said before, expanding these two cars put a lot of pressure and a lot of stress on an organization as small as ours. And, I don't care what size organization you are, adding a car at the Sprint Cup level is a massive endeavor. And, it put a lot of things in a bad position, but not to put anyone down. It's just something we were trying to do, and obviously we shot for the stars. It didn't work out, but hopefully we can come back stronger in the future.
We're talking with Parker Kligerman, who is competing in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Our phone lines are open at 203-757-1320. Parker, you have something going on yourself called Kicking with Kligerman?
Great thing. Kicking with Kligerman is my podcast that I do with my co-host Monica Hilton, who is my personal PR girl. And she's very knowledgeable in racing, and I think it's not just a racing-related podcast. For me, it's the idea that if you could tune in to when those drivers are on the intro stage and they're all talking, this is what Kicking and Kligerman is all about. We have guests that come on that are drivers, and we basically just talk and chat as if no one else is listening. So hopefully the fans out there have been enjoying it. We've been growing pretty rapidly. I think we're hitting 10,000 downloads just the most recent one, which is pretty good for a podcast. So we're getting up there, and we've actually had some interest from some radio networks as well. So it's a very fun deal, and it's presented by my company. I started New Intelligence, so that's one of our sponsors. And it's been an overall great experience.
Has any of the TV networks tried to grab you yet to maybe do some commentary?
You know what? I've offered. I think that the problem is a lot of times they don't like the young guys, so I don't think they want the young face on there. And maybe if I was a better looking girl, that would get a better opportunity. I'm more focused on the racing side. I think you'll see here soon. We have a lot of opportunities that come to me that we'll be able to announce and kind of put in place and put in motion. And I think for all my fans out there and for everyone who's followed my career, they're going to be surprised by some of them and not surprised by others. And I think it's going to be a really cool year to make lemonade out of lemons. I guess in a lot of ways, really not being able to compete full time at the Sprint Cup level, but definitely turning into a year that hopefully can build my brand as a race car driver, go out and have great results, win races, and come back full time to 15.
And I mean, that's what you got to do, just what you're doing, making lemonade out of lemons. Yeah, I almost had it, but I mean, you got to do what you're doing. I mean, look at Carl Edwards. He was handing out cards and stuff like that and doing everything he possibly could. I can recall a time back when Jimmy Johnson didn't think he was going to make it back, before he did. And it's just, you got to keep on trying that. And congrats to you for doing whatever you can to keep on going.
Absolutely. And that's the thing for any young kid out there. I think, you can't let setbacks like this get you down. That's the nature of the sport. As long as you get in that, every time you're given an opportunity in that race car, you drive it 100%, the absolute of your ability and the ability of the race car and get the most out of it. You can be completely content with whatever else happens around you. And know that you could have affected that sort of thing and just focus on what you can affect, and that's driving the race car. For myself, that's what I'm focused on, and focused on getting in more race cars and hopefully winning a lot of races this year. So stay tuned.
You're listening to Speedway Line Report Radio on WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com. You can also catch this show in a rebroadcast by going to SpeedwayLineReport.com. I'm Gary Denko, right alongside my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication. Our second guest of the evening, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series driver Parker Kligerman, who is originally out of Connecticut. And Parker, do you get a chance to come back home?
Yeah, I'm in Connecticut right now. With all this going down, I took the chance to maybe head up here to Connecticut and get some things in order, and so I've been up here with the family and such, figured all these things out, and it's been very enjoyable. Although I'm waiting for the weather to get a little warmer, but it just doesn't seem to turn around, so that's a bit of a shock. But I'm to be back up here at home.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, winter just does not want to let go for whatever reason. I mean, Ricky, it was a brutal winter up here. More cold than I think snow.
Yeah, it was definitely more cold, and it's like you get a spurt of the hot weather, and then it's right back to cold again.
Right.
And maybe I'll be able to head down there to the old Norwalk Karting Association one of these days and see how those guys are doing. Maybe I'll hop in a go-kart here since I've got my schedule's obviously been a little bit freed up in the near future. So.
And you know what's amazing about your racing career, and I know we've talked about it before, Parker, here on Speedway Learning Report Radio. Being from Connecticut, I mean, you never raced any of the short tracks here at Stafford, Thompson, or Waterford, like, you know, some other drivers, you know, coming up through the ranks. I mean, Joey Logano, of course, started over at the Silver City Quarter Midget Club. He really never raced at Stafford, Thompson, or Waterford, except when he was in the K&N East Series. Your path went a different way for your racing career.
You know, and I, in a lot of ways, I've always wanted to kind of be able to go up and race those tracks. You know, I've always looked at the modifieds as being something that's a little bit more northeast and something I've always wanted to jump into. I haven't quite had the opportunity as of late, but, you know, now obviously with my schedule opening up, maybe there's a possibility. But I think, you know, it is odd that, you know, myself, I didn't ever get to race at those tracks. But at the start of my career, I really focused on the road course side of things. And I did race at Lime Rock Park, and then I've also raced at Watkins Glen. So I've raced up here in the Northeast in a couple of the road courses. I just never had the chance to race the short tracks. And then obviously I went out to the Midwest to start my whole career in midgets. And subsequently went from there straight to stock cars and just never quite had the opportunity.
And just curious, your contract will allow you to race like at a Stafford or Waterford or Thompson Speedway?
I think I could negotiate something. We'll see. If the opportunity comes, I'm sure I can find a way out. I'm not saying 100%, but maybe I can talk my way out, or I'll put under a different name. You know what I mean? If you guys won't tell anyone, at least.
Boy, I'll tell you, if anybody's out there listening right now, car owner, I'd love to see Parker, you know, in a NASCAR Whelen modified entry, whether it's at New Hampshire Motor Speedway coming up in July, depending on what, you know, comes about for Parker. But and I know before we talked to you, Parker, about a modified, and you always wanted to get in one of those cars.
So yeah, I've always watched Ryan Newman there, who's done a lot of modified races when they're, you know, with the Sprint Cup Series, and I've always been a little bit jealous. They look really fun. So, and I actually, Kyle Larson's kind of a good friend of mine, and when he did that modified at the Battle at the Beach, I think it was last year, and got, you know, ran pretty well. And I had to talk for a while about how that thing drove, because I just think they're some of the coolest race cars, and probably the only race car I've ever really, in the last few years, focused on going and just being as a fan, you know, seeing them down at Daytona this year, and when they come to Bristol and that sort of thing. So they've always been exciting to me, and hopefully maybe I'll get a chance here soon.
Let's shift gears. Let's go back to Sprint Cup Series where you were racing from the beginning of the season at Daytona. What do these new cars drive like, the Sprint Cup cars?
Well, we've had this year the rules changed, probably one of the biggest rule changes in the last 10 years for Sprint Cup, and that was the no ride height rule. What that did was effectively allowed us to put the cars on the ground, and what do I mean by that is, you know, set the ride height as low as we possibly think the car can run without hitting the ground on the racetrack, and start there. Where we used to start the car about 4 to 5 inches up in the air, and then it would lower down as we got on the racetrack. Now it starts on the ground. And it changed everything we do and know as stock car racers, what we do setup-wise. It's been a huge transition for everyone in the sport, I think. It's opened up a whole new can of worms on how you set up the race cars. And for the drivers, you know, it didn't drive that differently as much as the racing's maybe been a little different. I think you've seen, obviously, the tire issues that we've had in a couple places, and I don't want to say that's Goodyear's fault at all. That's been a result of the extra grip we make, the extra way we set up the car, the way we set up the race cars now, and those sorts of things. We're all trying to catch up to that, as well as the side that NASCAR added a bunch of downforce to the race cars this year with the rule changes. The cars are going faster than ever, so it's definitely unique to the Sprint Cup Series. And so all those things combined, plus the high horsepower of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, I think you're going to continually see all year those lap records in qualifying continue to be set. Because the cars are just faster than they've ever been in the history of the Sprint Cup Series, and I think it's an enjoyable time to be a part of it. It's an enjoyable time for our fans, and I think you're seeing the finishes and the racing that we're hoping to get with having the cars be this competitive, this close.
One of the things I will say about the tires is I've never seen such a huge drop off with the tires like this year, and Kyle Busch is making that, you know, very obvious with some of the races. I mean, granted, he's one of the guys you want on a restart. You know, with fresh tires, he's the guy you want. And this past race here, would he start like 15th? And he had a shot to win the race. So yeah. I mean, and that was 8 lap old tires the other guys had on him.
seen is that the tires are obviously wearing a lot more because we have more downforce. The setups of the cars create more grip, and those two things combined are allowing us to go faster than ever, and therefore we're wearing the tires faster than ever. I think it's a great thing. I think it's one of those things that just adds to the racing. I think it's why you're seeing the finishes, the racing that we're seeing, is that this is allowing the cars to wear the tires out, which allows the drivers to drive the cars differently at the beginning of a run than at the end of a run. And all those things combined add up to make, hopefully, more passing and better racing. And I think you'll see drivers that adapt to it and drivers that don't.
A couple more minutes left with Parker Kligerman, who's actually here in Connecticut visiting family and putting things in order. The phone number that you need tonight, 203-757-1320. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll talk to the winner at Stafford Motor Speedway in the running of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. The 2010 champion, Bobby Santos, put his number 44 in victory lane yesterday on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We'll talk to him about that and much more. That coming up after national news. Back on with Parker Kligerman, who is competing in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And Parker, first of all, what did you think of that finish Saturday night at Richmond?
That was great. That's the kind of stuff we all tune in for, and that's what we hope the Sprint Cup Series can provide week in and week out. And I think we've seen a couple finishes close to that this year. And I guess a lot of that before, a lot of that can just be attributed to a lot of the things you're seeing being changed in the sport. We're thinking really outside the box and things that have never been done in the sport before, in hopes of providing racing like that, providing entertainment like that, and hopefully the fans out there are seeing that and liking it, I guess is the best way to put it. For myself, just being able to watch that race was a little odd, I guess, having raced in every Sprint Cup race since Homestead last year. But I think, as a fan and not a driver, it's the kind of racing I want to see week in, week out. And I hope we can continue to provide that. I hope to continue to tweak on the cars and those sorts of things to make sure that we continually provide that kind of racing, because that's the kind of stuff that sells tickets and drives TV ratings.
Yeah, I thought it was a good end of the race there. I'm still a little unsure of what Matt Kenseth did wrong there at the end, but I thought he did what he had to do without roughing anybody up or anything. But I thought it was a good finish. He was trying to hold them off, and everybody was, battling right there for the win.
But yeah, I'm not sure, between Brad and Matt there. I'm not 100% sure either what the situation was there. I think in a lot of ways, they just all got very focused on racing each other. Jeff, Matt, and Brad, and Joey was able to sneak on by. That's the best way to put it. So I'm not sure exactly, like you said, what the reason was for the animosity between the two of them, but nonetheless, I think we all know how the other situation there ended between Casey Mears and Marcus Ambrose, and obviously that was been interesting as well. So that's the kind of Saturday night short track racing we all like in the Sprint Cup Series, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
Last question for you, Parker. I appreciate your time. NASCAR looking to take horsepower away in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with Jimmy Johnson on that, who obviously was not a fan of it, and I've seen a lot of drivers not be a fan of it, and I have to believe that that's just not the answer to continuing to provide this kind of racing. This racing could almost benefit from more horsepower, I believe, in a lot of ways. I think the more horsepower that we give the cars allows the drivers to continually manipulate the car and drive the car. The more horsepower you take away, it's more dependent on the setup of the car, the engineering of the race car, and less on the drivers and the team, or the mechanics. And I think you see that in the Nationwide Series as the worst example of that, where you can have two cars, like the 22 and the 54, go and win as many races as they did last year when they were just way ahead of everyone, because the horsepower doesn't allow the drivers to manipulate the race car when you're almost flat out in a lot of places. So I'm not a fan of it, but hopefully we can, if they do that, we'll find aerodynamic changes that will alleviate the horsepower loss and allow the cars to continually put on this kind of racing.
Right. Well, Parker, it was great talking with you. I appreciate when you get something lined up, if you can give us a call here at Speedway Line Report Radio. You know how to contact me, and let us know what's in the future for Parker Kligerman.
We always appreciate it, and I'll very much so keep you guys updated. I'm sure we'll have something announced here very soon.
Very good. Thanks, Parker. Parker Kligerman joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. This show is also being brought to you by, of course, Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire, Connecticut. When it comes to maintenance and lawn care service, it's Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire. You can give him a call at 203-272-2054 for Jim's Lawn Care Service. Once again, based in Cheshire, not too far from your shop, Ricky.
Nope, he's about 2 minutes away from my shop, so he stops by all the time.
And he loves to talk auto racing.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, yes, he does. And of course, he called me today. And of course, with Waterford getting rained out, he was a little bummed out. But I said there's brighter days coming, Jim. So, national news is around the corner. And then when we come back, we're going to talk to Bobby Santos, who sat in Victory Lane over at Stafford Motor Speedway yesterday afternoon. Of course, NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour for race number 2. And we'll talk to him about that victory and much, much more. National news is next. You stay right where you are.
The radio station for news, talk, and entertainment. 1320 AM WATR Waterbury.
Racist comments allegedly made and caught on tape
I was waiting
by
for
the
the
owner of the
countdown
LA
from you.
Clippers.
No,
I didn't know.
It went down to like 15 and
He went
then
down
I
to 15, and then
yeah.
I think he thought it was a minute 15.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't.
I was like, you went over about a minute.
Let me,
so.
let's get that all lined up. Let me use the facility. One of the most talented broadcasters in a long, long time that I've certainly seen. And of course, you know, he announces over at Stafford Motor Speedway. He announces at Thompson Motorsports Park. And he was the voice of the Battle at the Beach all the last 2 years. Well, we're going to try something new here on Speedway Line Report Radio. We hope it all comes out. Joe Koss has a new thing that you can catch up on. It's called Race Day Next. And you can actually go to YouTube. Of course, not the YouTube guy, but for now you'll be able to see it from our guy right here, Robert Baggett, the YouTube man. And what he does is he brings you all up to speed on what has happened on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. It's a highlight package, and he certainly does a great job.
For the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, took the tour to the Stafford Motor Speedway for the greatest race in the history of spring and the running of the Napa Auto Parts Spring Sizzler. Green flag comes out. Rookie pole sitter Tommy Barrett led the field to the green flag, but it wouldn't take long for Woody Pitkat to take over the top spot. Shortly thereafter, lap number 7, Doug Coby going around on the bottom, but Pitkat wants to lead again. He'll make the same move to the inside of turn number 3 and put car number 88 back out in front. Jimmy Zacharias would spin early in the event, and Woody Pitkat driving in a spec-powered race car. Only able to go 175 laps on a tank of fuel, will take the opportunity on lap 31 to come down and recharge with Sunoco Racing gasoline. Problem struck for Ryan Preece as he discovered an engine problem. He was down a cylinder much of the event. A rocker arm was eventually the culprit. He would finish 30 laps down in the 24th position. Spin on the back straightaway. It's Jamie Tomato making his 109th start at Stafford Speedway. Gary Putnam and Dave Salzarullo also involved. Justin Bonsignor, driving in the other spec-powered race car, decided he would come in on lap 47 to fuel off his race car. Meanwhile, Donnie Leah catches a break. Right front tire goes down on his automobile, and he is able to take advantage of the caution. Back under the green flag, Old Blue, driven by Jimmy Zacharias, was strong all day long here, running inside the top 5, competing for position with Doug Coby. More on that story later. After his pit stop, Woody Pitkat trying to make up for lost ground, knowing that track position was crucial. He didn't waste any time charging back up through the front of the field. Lap 104, caution comes out because Gary McDonald spins. That'll bring all the leaders down pit road, including Rowan Pennick, Tommy Barrett, Ronnie Silk, and Bobby Santos. The top 3 cars would exit the pit lane the way they came in, but Bobby Santos would pick up 1 spot, going from 5th to 4th, and that would prove to be important. Back under the green flag, Rowan Pennick hammered down in the inside groove of the racetrack, takes over the top spot once again. Rookie Tommy Barrett says, you know what, I'll go up and I'll take the race lead for a little while, but it wouldn't last for long because Bobby Santos dives down to the bottom, takes over the top position, and puts Tommy Barrett in the rearview mirror. deeper in the field. Good side-by-side action as Justin Bonsignor dirt tracks it through the corner, hangs onto it, and continues on. Back up front, Bobby Santos, the race leader. Doug Kobe trying to track him down. A little bit of bumper tag in turn 2 before Ronnie Uhas has problem bringing out the caution flag. Top right of your screen, watch Donnie Leah get turned with Jimmy Zacharias, and that good run we were talking about ended like that for Zacharias. Gary Putnam in the 77, also involved, would end his day. Up front, Santos and Kobe continued to battle for the race lead, but trouble behind him. Eric Goodale running third at the time, backs it into the outside fence along with Tommy Barrett and Ronnie Silk. Final restart of the day, Bobby Santos gets out in front, Doug Kobe in second, challenged by Rowan Pennick, Matt Hirschman, and Justin Bonsignor. This went right down to the wire. Bobby Santos, the race leader on the final lap. Doug Kobe giving him one more challenge, but Bobby Santos hangs on, picks up his 6th career Stafford Speedway victory, and his 3rd Napa Auto Parts Spring Sizzler win. Santos gets the win with Doug Kobe, Rowan Pennick, Woody Pickett, and Justin Bonsignor rounding out the top 5. Good run for Timmy Salamito. He'll finish in 8th. Pole sitter Tommy Barrett would finish in 11th, and Ryan Preece, as mentioned, ended up 24th overall. The next time the tour is back on track will be on Memorial Day weekend for a Friday night event under the lights here at the half-mile Stafford Motor Speedway. The event will be much shorter, 125 laps in distance, and Ryan Preece will look to defend his title in that event from 1 year ago. Reporting from Stafford Speedway, I'm Joe Kost for Race Day Next.
In 8th, but you know who was running very, very strong in the event was Jimmy Zacharias in the bowler number 3.
Yeah, he was up front for a while there. He was doing well. He ended up in a late wreck there.
Right, exactly. And of course, so we tried something new. Of course, Joe Kost, as I mentioned now, has Race Day Next. So if you're watching the YouTube guy, Robert Baggett, who's here in our Waterbury studio, and you go to the website, you'll be able to see all that audio that we're playing here. If you're just listening to SpeedwayLandReport.com, you'll hear the audio. But Rowan Pennick, good strong run for him. Here's what he had to say about his day.
Yeah, we just got a little bit tight after we took tires and get some wear on the tires and letting the race play out. The things started coming back to me, and we were able to get back up to 3rd. I think we, if we made a couple different changes on the pit stop, we might have had a shot for the win. But Bobby and Kobe were pretty strong, so happy with the 3rd.
Doug Kobe, who would come home in the 2nd position, would explain his day.
Yeah, I'm usually really good at these top 3 finishes, kind of just taking it and saying it was a good run, but I'm freaking pissed off, man. We had a really good car, and I want to congratulate the 44 team, but, this 2 car was coming at the end, and, a couple lap cars, I think we lapped them about 8 times today, and when there's 2 cars battling for a win, the spotters just really got to tell him to get out of the way, and Bobby did what he was supposed to do. He pulled up next to the lap car and used it as a pick, and, I'm disappointed, but I'm also happy. It's 2 straight top 3s to start the season, and we'll keep marching on.
So that one we heard from 3rd Rowan Pennick and 2nd Doug Colby. Now we're going to hear from the man who sat in victory lane, and no one needed to show Bobby Santos the way to victory lane at Stafford. He now joins us. Bobby, how are you? Doing very well. First of all, let's a lot to talk about your victory in your weekend over at Stafford. Let's talk about when you first unloaded the race car.
Well, we definitely had a long weekend, to say that. We were trying a couple different things with the chassis in practice, and we weren't as good as we usually are at Stafford, so we pretty much by the end of practice, opened up the notebook and went back to what we knew worked good there. We ended up having a freeze plug issue, and by the end of practice, which really screwed us up, kind of put us behind for our qualifying run and stuff, and then qualified 8th on Saturday. A little disappointed with that. We definitely we showed for that Saturday, so we were excited to start fresh on Sunday.
How was the racetrack for you during the day yesterday afternoon? We had some rain, a couple showers where Stafford, Ricky and I mentioned earlier, did a great job. They got the track dried and did what they needed to do. But how was your race car? Did the track change at all?
Honestly, I felt like the track was pretty good by the time we got to go racing. I know, they had the SKs and stuff before us, so. To me, it felt like the same old normal Stafford. Honestly, the outside was actually pretty good on restarts and stuff, which was actually, in my opinion, a little better than normal yesterday. So I thought the track was pretty good.
Yeah, the track did a good job, and as well you did. And I'll tell you, it's been something having watching you team up with that 44 team, and you guys been really doing well ever since you got together. And applaud to you and all the guys on the 44 team. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun since I teamed up with them. I really didn't know what to expect going into it. And then Sully Tinio, who owns and runs the whole deal, he's given us every piece we need to do it right. And Steven LeMay, my crew chief, is just calling awesome shots. And I just feel like the more we race together, the more fun we're having, and the better we do. I really believe each time out we're definitely getting better and working together better as a team.
Who were some of the other cars that you were racing up against that you thought were pretty strong, and you said, you know what, they're going to be strong, and I'm going to have to try to find a way around them?
The first half of the race, I was just kind of hanging out because I knew we had a good car, and I knew everyone had a pit stop coming, I kind of just hung out a little bit and figured out what I needed and kind of relayed to my Stevie what the car was doing, and he made a great adjustment on our stop, and the guys gave me an awesome pit stop, picked us up a very important spot on pit road, and then after that we just went for it, and Doug was definitely, in my opinion, the car to beat, for the first half of the race and the second half of the race. Lucky thing between, our pit stop and, just getting out front early after that, in my opinion, made the difference of the race, because Doug was definitely a little better than we were.
And I'm everybody who's always busting my chops when I get to the racetracks and everything, because I say this every time when we talk to guys and stuff, but I like to get it out there for all the,
Sure.
little things about the racing and stuff.
Sure.
And Bobby, what kind of chassis do you guys use?
We run a Troyer chassis with Billy the Kid motor.
And what are some of the sponsors that you have on the car?
Yeah, we actually had a lot of good help. Obviously, Sully Tinio is the car owner. Mike Curb Records, which is a sponsor that's been helping me the last couple of years, which has been a huge help. And then we have Alivas, which is a catering company in Massachusetts, and they always feed us well at the racetrack, which is pretty neat. I got thanks Simpson Race Products. We have a lot of good help. Dan Kelly. We got a list of a bunch of people. I'm sorry if I forget anybody, but a lot of great people involved in our team.
Take us through toward the end there. Of course, Doug Colby, and you guys always put on a great race, no matter what racetrack we're at. Doug had a good race car in that number 2, but take us down to the checkered flag.
Oh, I was very happy with with about 30 to go, I think, and we were out front. Doug was second. I knew if it stayed green, Doug probably was going to have enough time to get to our bumper and probably work us over and, get around us. So each yellow at the end there, as laps are winding down, I felt was in my favor. And, the lap cars that I heard, Doug talk of definitely worked out in the leader's favor in this one. So I think just the combination of those two things, helped us out in holding them off.
Go ahead. Well, it's just, sometimes the lap cars are part of the deal. I mean, sometimes they work with you and sometimes they work against you.
It wasn't very long ago. I was leading the Sizzler. I think I led the first 100 laps or so, and got spun out by a lap car. So it's part of the game. Sometimes they help you, and sometimes they hurt you. But this time, I guess I was was the beneficiary of the lap cars being part of the race.
And after the race, of course, I mean, you and Doug have always been friends. You guys go back to your quarter midget days. I mean, did you guys talk about those final laps?
A little bit. Yeah, I've looked up to Doug since I was 5 years old. I mean, he was my favorite quarter midget driver as a kid, so that's pretty neat. But you know, I think it was the second to last restart. You know, I think some people are making a little controversy of it, but I don't feel that me and Doug and anyone else and any of the team members have a problem. But from my point of view, I felt like he got better restart, if not maybe a little bit of a jump on the restart. He beat me through, you know, which in turn he beat me through 1 and 2. And down in 3 and 4, I felt like he closed the door just a little bit. But I felt like I had the right front end there, and there's 10 laps to go, so I drove in and kind of kept my ground. And I used them up just a little bit. But I don't feel that that's anything that, anyone else would do, would tend to go at the Spring Fizzler. Me and Doug talked after for a short second, and I didn't feel that there's any hard feelings between the two of us, and I think that we have a lot of respect for each other, and I don't feel he would have done anything different in a reverse situation.
Sure, right.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that I try to tell people now and then is switch positions, and how would you feel then? Because that's the biggest thing, because everybody's mad at that particular point, but what would you have done if you were that way, and what do you think you would have done if he was the other way? And, I thought it was, I saw the end of the race there, and, it's a lap car, it happens. Eric, I've been helping out Eric for years, we've been leading races and get spun out by a lap car, just like you did. It happens, it's all part of the gig.
And, if you do it long enough, which, a lot of us have, you end up on both sides of it. And, this time, I guess I was on the good side of it.
And, so far, if you want to count the Battle at the Beach, 3 races now into the books. Of course, the Battle at the Beach was a non-points race. Doug Colby picked up the victory there. Then, of course, the point races started at Thompson back a few weeks ago, where Justin Bonsignor put his car into the winner's circle, and now we've got Bobby Santos in for the victory. Speaking of Justin Bonsignor, he's got a spec engine in his car, and Woody Pitcat has a spec engine. Your thoughts on that?
I know there's been a lot of talk of the spec motor. From what I hear, they're a tick better than the built motors right now. It's hard to say. I think that you hear two sides of the story. Some people like them, some people don't like them. I don't know. I know that I feel like NASCAR wants it to be spec motors down the road, to be the motor of choice. I feel like right now they're definitely a little bit better than the built motors. But, built motors ran, first, second, third at Stafford. So I guess we can't really complain after Stafford.
And they got the pole also.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Billy the Kid Ford got the pole. So, the racing's good. I think, there's going to be advantages for certain motors, whether you have a Chevy or a Ford or a spec or a built motor. You're going to have advantages at certain racetracks with certain motors, and that's racing. I think at the end of the day, if you do your homework on your car, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be about the better handling car than the motor.
Bobby, what else you got going on in 2014 in your racing schedule?
As of right now, I'm going to run the full tour, and I have 4 pavement Silver Crown races that I'm running, along with one race that I'm doing this year I'm kind of excited about. I'm running the Little 500 at Anderson Speedway out in Indiana. It's actually the day after the next Stafford race. I get a 500-lap sprint car race at a quarter mile, so I'm pretty pumped about that.
Okay, that all sounds good. Albert?
500 laps in a quarter mile, we better strengthen up the neck before that one.
I'm hoping I don't fall out of the seat for that.
Okay. Well, Bobby, I want to thank you for being a part of the show. Congratulations once again to you and your race team on your victory yesterday afternoon in the Spring Sizzler and in the running of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour with your 44 car. Of course, the next stop for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour comes up on Friday, May the 23rd. And normally, do you see the racetrack change from Sizzler weekend till that first Friday show for the Modified Tour, Bobby?
You know, I think racing at night, the track's just a bit different. I think you need to keep that in mind. I think it frees up a little bit. And then sometimes, you know, the strategy of possibly not pitting to possibly pitting, I think just changed the way you go about your plan into the race. So it's definitely a little bit different of a strategy and a little bit different style of a race. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I like the 125 deal at Stafford because I think it throws in different strategies, you know, where you feel like when you're running 200 and 150, you almost have to pit, where the 125 makes it where it can be exciting, where it seems like someone's chasing another guy down with tires versus the guy that stayed out at the end.
Sure. All right, well, Bobby, thanks for being with us tonight on Speedway Line Report Radio. Once again, congratulations. Job well done, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next event for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, as I mentioned, Stafford Motor Speedway, May 23rd. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it. We'll take our last commercial break, and when we come back, we'll wrap things up here on Speedway Line Report Radio.
There's only one place to go. Shaler Acura
We're going to get... You want him to capture that audio? Can you dub that audio in that you missed? From... What did you miss? We missed something.
Woody,
Rowan Pennick.
Rowan Pennick
And so we're going to dub that in.
Yeah.
Can you make that all fit in nicely?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do that afterward.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura.
Besides that, everything else went okay.
Well, there's nothing I can do about it.
No, right.
Because I have to be in one place or another, so.
All right, you can give me... Oh, no, leave that there. I'll get it back.
Okay.
Goes through a 150-point inspection and comes with a 7-year or 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Plus, save on your monthly payments with low finance rates. Nowhere else but Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester.
And you captured that. So, yeah, what we'll do is we'll get Rowan Pennick and Doug Colby.
You're over there and you're like, yeah. I'm like, wait.
There you go.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. About 2 minutes left.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Of course, plenty of action, as we mentioned, at Stafford Motor Speedway. You know, this show is also being brought to you by J.M. Montesano Auto Body Works. They are specialists in auto collision, all work guaranteed. If you are in and around the New Haven area and you've been in an accident, stop by and see John Montesano. Once again, J.M. Montesano Auto Body Works, specialists in auto collision. All of their work is guaranteed. 390 Lombard Street, New Haven, Connecticut. You can give them a call, 203-865-1389 for J.M. Montesano Auto Body. And don't forget, our good folks right down the road here in Waterbury, Joe from the Grotto Restaurant, him and his wife Bernadette, they were on hand yesterday over at Stafford Motor Speedway for the Spring Sizzler. And they are closed Sundays and Mondays. And once again, serving fine Italian food, whether it's eating or takeout. They're located at 634 Watertown Avenue in Waterbury, only 2 minutes from the I-84 Route 8 interchange. Home-style pasta and sauces. Once again, the Grotto Restaurant. Once again, in that fine Italian food. Of course, been there many times. Bear has been there many times. So he loves the Grotto Restaurant. There's no doubt about it. Speaking of Bear, did you see Bear yesterday?
No.
I did not see him in my travels, whether in the pit area or at the pit party. So I don't know. Hopefully everything is okay with the Bear Man. Of course, he is the crew chief of Todd Zegedy in the Volante Modified Racing Series. And so far, 2 races. They got, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s they have?
2 top 5s, I believe it is. Doing well.
So, and they're going to win some races this year, no question about it. Ryan Priest, of course, was on hand in the SK Modified. He, at Stafford, he would pick up the victory over Danny Cates, Rowan Pennick, Chase Dowling, who was our guest last Monday night and it was here in our Waterbury studio. He's a rookie contender in 2014. He came home fourth. Matt Galco, Todd Owen, Ted Christopher, Doug Colby, Dan Avery, and Glenn Green rounded out your top 10.
Yeah, no, it was good for Dowling there. He had a good run.
He certainly did. This show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, J.M. Montesano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant,
and Your Car, Your Choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Big thank you to all of our guests tonight. For my co-hosts, Rocket Rick Rotundo, Tom Graves, Tom Wormsby, Robert Baggett, I'm Gary Danko. We'll talk to you next Monday night.
Been a GMD production. Don't forget to listen to Gary